Ladies and gentlemen, according to Joe Cowley, the Chicago Bulls are still actively trying to trade Zach Lavine. We're going to talk about that. And then to end today's episode, we got to talk about Billy Donovan and some of his concerns when it comes to the Chicago Bulls defense. Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac. Gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. If y'all tuned in with me today, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at 6,800 subscribers. We trying to get to that 7K. So if you like what you're hearing today, hit the like button and share and subscribe. And make sure you share this with somebody that might enjoy it. But let's jump into the content. Now, my man's Joe Cowley, we know the entire offseason, he did not allow a week to go by without letting Bulls fans know that nobody wanted Zach Lavine. So even after the press conference, to where the Chicago Bulls stated that they're trying to wait and see what happens with this team, my man's Joe Cowley said, to hell with what you guys are talking about. I'm still going to report that the Chicago Bulls are actively still trying to trade Zach Lavine. Look, it could be true. I'm not saying the man is a liar, but I'm going to take the words at the front office and what they've been talking about. And what the front office has been talking about is guys understanding their sacrifices, guys understanding what is going to be required of them now that the Chicago Bulls have moved on from DeMar DeRozan, the most clutch player that they had on their team. The Chicago Bulls have moved on from the best from one of the best Swiss Army knives in the NBA with Alex Caruso to help out their defensive side. They talked about all those sacrifices. And what I got out of the media day and the press conferences from AK and Billy Donovan is that they are going to wait and see what happens with this team. I know last year, and reporters had brought it up, that AK's goal was to get closer to a championship and add 10 more wins to what the Chicago Bulls record was last season. What was the record last season? Well, they had 39 wins. So AK goal is to move up to 49 wins. I don't necessarily know if that's what's going to happen with the Chicago Bulls team right now before we even see him play a game. But one thing that we do know, and one thing that AK and Billy Donovan know, is that they have a lot of young talent with a lot of experience. AK talked about it. He talked about Kobe White in his 6 years in the NBA. He talked about Josh Giddey in his 4 years in the NBA. P. Will in his time in the NBA. Same with Ayo Dosunmu and Dalen Terry and those other guys. Even went as far as saying that, hey, you know what I'm saying? We tried to build up this relationship with Zach Lavine. We're trying to right the ship so we can take the next step forward. It does seem a bit confusing, especially when you consider that there are guys still hanging around like Zach Lavine. There are guys still hanging around like Nikola Vucevic, Torrey Craig, and Javon Carter. When the Chicago Bulls appear that they want to be moving forward with the youth movement. So it makes total sense on why Joe Cowley believes that the Chicago Bulls are still actively trying to trade Zach Lavine. The reason I'm on my side of it and not necessarily believing that it's 100% true is because you tried all offseason. You tried during the season to trade Zach Lavine. Nothing happened. Nothing was good enough. Nothing that hit your table was good enough to move you and say, all right, Zach Lavine, appreciate your service, my boy. We finna get you up out of Chicago. Nothing came across the desk till this point that was good enough to where the front office felt like that they can move off Zach Lavine. Now, we're not going to sit here and act like the trade talks have died down. They can very well still be going. That'd be naive of me to think that all talks have stopped. But I will say this. If there's no team that's going to be desperate heading into next week's start of preseason games, Zach Lavine going to be here for some time. Zach Lavine is going to be here for a while, in my opinion. However long is that while, hey, it can go from anything from the start of this season or all the way on to the end of the season. You pick and choose. So I'm not going to sit here and, act like Joe Cowley is totally off the mark, because I don't. I believe there is some credence and some truthfulness to this claim, but I think that right now there's going to be some type of patience behind it. I think that the Chicago Bulls right now, with the way that they've talked, especially the both of the guys appearing to be on the same page when it comes to AK and Billy Donovan, especially how they approach the media day, Zach Lavine is going to be here until they feel like, yeah, enough is enough. You know what I'm saying? And right now, they talked about Zach Lavine's professionalism. They talked about how Billy Donovan met with Zach Lavine along with some other players to talk about their roles, to talk about increased things, that the increased expectations for these young guys who have never been in some of these positions. Now, when you talk about the talent of Zach Lavine, this is a player you're not giving up for pennies on the dollar, whether people want to get rid of him or not. You're not giving them away for pennies on a dollar. And to be right and to be real with you, to be honest with you, it's not going to be a straight up trade like we seen with Josh Giddey and Alex Caruso. It's more complicated than that because there's more money involved now. So it's going to be a little bit more complicated to move Zach Lavine. So I say, for those fans that still want to say Zach Lavine has to get traded, Zach Lavine will be traded. I'm not mad at you. You have the right to feel that. But what my position is the Chicago Bulls are going to be a little bit more patient with this. That's my position. I'm not against trading Zach Lavine. I'm not against Zach Lavine staying. Do what's best for the squad. Do what's best for the squad. If that means Zach Lavine has to go, make sure that the trade that comes back in and those players and those assets potentially that can come back in makes sense. That's all I ask. All I ask is that if you do move them, make it make sense. If you retain them, it has to make sense. And the plan still has to go moving forward to better the squad. Eventually, Zach Lavine will be on another team. I'm going to take that stance eventually. But I don't think it's going to come as soon as everybody thinks that it is. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or Joe Cowley from his standpoint. I don't think this is something that's coming next week or the week after. Anytime after that, we shall see. Me personally, I believe that the Chicago Bulls want to see how the start of the season goes. Because the start of the season, the Chicago Bulls, they ain't going against a bunch of guys that's going to come up in here and lollygag, or a bunch of guys that are still trying to figure it out. The Chicago Bulls are going to be going against some of the teams, you know what I'm saying? Some of the teams that's going to be trying to make some noise within their first few games. You know what I'm saying? They started this season off by going against the Pelicans, then the Bucks, then they see the Thunder. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be one of those for the Chicago Bulls. It's absolutely going to be we're going to be watching closely for the start of this season, for sure. We're going to see what it's like for the Chicago Bulls. But the last thing before we move on, one interesting thing that I found out from the Chicago Bulls while going back and listening to the media day was the quote that came from one of the refs from 670 to score. He pretty much asked AK Dub, like, hey, I mean, I know what you said. I know you wanted to increase win totals. I know you trying to push forward and closer to that championship. But right now, and I'm paraphrasing, it sounds like the Chicago Bulls are kind of not picking their lane. It's how he pretty much said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's almost like you have a lane to pick, but you have not quite picked a lane yet. That was a bar. That was a bar. And it kind of holds true. And it kind of holds some truth to it. But I will say this. This is a unique situation because when we look at a team that's embracing the youth movement, they don't have this amount of young talent on the squad with this amount of experience. We already talked about Kobe White, how long he's been in the league. P. Will, he's been in the league for some time. Ayo, he's been in there for some time. Dalen Terry, he's moving in and had some time. A lot of the teams, they start these guys off with fresh draft picks, a couple sprinkle in, a couple guys here, but a lot of the guys that's going to be seeing a bulk of the minutes, They have experience. We talking about Josh Giddey with the playoff experience. Kobe White, Ayodo Sumu, P. Will, playoff experience, play-in experience. They know what it feels like to play meaningful basketball games down the stretch. That's what makes the situation a little bit different. But let me know how you guys all feeling about that down below, and we're going to chop it up. But before we get up out of here, the question is, in the second half of this episode, it's going to discuss, should we be concerned about the Bulls defense? I know that's one of the things that we really got to harp on, and that's one thing that we have to discuss at a different level than what we have talked about in years past. But quite frank with you, we should have been talking about it last season. In 2022, the Chicago Bulls ranked 5th. Now, it was a little, you know what I'm saying? If you break down the stats, there are some things, but nonetheless, they were ranked 5th in defensive rating. Last year, 5th went down to 21st. So how much concern should we be? I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Are we expecting the Chicago Bulls to be worse than 21st on defense? I understand that we lost Alex Caruso. I understand that Alex Caruso was the lead guy in the leader in the NBA when it came to deflections. And how many steals how many plays did Alex Caruso make that didn't hit the box score? For those of us that watch damn near every game, or if not every game. It's going to be hard to replace a player like Alex Caruso. It's going to be difficult to say, Josh Giddey, we need a little bit more about you for the defensive end. Zach Lavine, we need a little bit more about you on the defensive end. Kobe White, we know that you were solid last year on the defensive end, but we understand that you're working on your conditioning, but you got to be more sound on the defensive end. I will say this. There should be cause for some concern. But these are NBA players. I don't want to hear it. Defense is an effort thing. These guys, you got to show me. Billy Donovan, show me. Coach these guys up. I'm not saying you're going to be able to become top 5 in defense, but damn. Are you telling me we about to be worse than 21st? Are we about to be worse than the 21st ranked defense with these guys? I mean, you shouldn't. Right? You shouldn't. But there is always a possibility, especially when you're talking about the starting lineup. My potential starting lineup consists of Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Zach Lavine, P. Will, Nick Vooch. Out of those defenders, we know the guy that's going to be the number 1 on defender for the starting lineup is P. Will. After that, it gets a little tricky. I'm going to put Kobe White at number 2 for the starting lineup. And then after that, may the best man win. Because you got 3 guys that's out there, and you like, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. We talking about Zach Lavine, Josh Giddey, and Nick Vooch. We seen these guys show effort in certain situations, but how sustainable is it? Your defenders are mostly on the bench. We don't know what Lonzo Ball is going to be like, but if we believe, or if there's a belief that he can come back and at least be somewhat close to what he used to be, that's one defender on the bench. We're talking about Ayo Dosunmu, who has defensive versatility and who can do a number of things similar to Alex Caruso, but at a kind of different type of thing. But not as on that level, but close to it. That's one of your defenders. Dalen Terry, Crash Bandicoot. We talk about effort. Look, I don't know if my man's going to be the one that's always in the best position, but what I do know is he going to show effort. That's one of your defenders. We talking about one of your pit bulls who kind of want to push towards the end of the bench. And Javon Carter. Then we still talking about Jalen Smith. I know what he can do as a rim defender, but can he guard on ball? Will he be able to provide some good help defense? I believe he's good at that area, but we got to see the one-on-one stuff. We got to see if the on-ball stuff makes a lot of sense. And then after that, the Chicago Bulls look like they might be into something. I don't know. Do y'all think that's going to cause for the Chicago Bulls to have to outscore a lot of teams? If that's what we calling for, be prepared to lose a lot of games. I'm just saying. Maybe, but I will say this. And y'all let me know if y'all feeling this. We do know the Pacers made a run by just solely outscoring people. They were horrible on defense, but they were able to score at an efficient level. Ran through the playoff, got through the playoffs, ran through some lucky stuff, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Bro, like what? I ain't saying the Bulls gonna make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I'm saying if we can do offense at an efficient rate, we can do defense at a decent rate, we might be all right. I don't know if it's gonna be 49 wins. I don't even know if it's gonna be 35, to be honest with you. But we shall see. I've seen crazier things happen. And then we talking about how top heavy the East is going to be and how brutal it's going to be towards the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. It's going to be interesting for the Chicago Bulls. So, in end all be all, I will say we should be a little bit concerned about defense, but nonetheless, there's no excuses. I don't want to hear it. I don't expect the Chicago Bulls to be a top 10 defense. Just don't be better than 21st. Don't be worse than 21st. Just don't be worse than 21st. That means if you're worse than 21st, that just means the effort is not there. The X's and O's is not matching up. And we need to continue to improve. I think we need to continue that improving anyway. But nonetheless, we shall see what happens. But that is it for me today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Again, we are a little bit over 6,800. Before the season start, we're trying to get to 7K. So subscribe, and share. Share this with somebody you think that might enjoy it. Because we rocking on. We getting ready for more live calls as the season gets ready. And all my fellas and ladies, that are sports fans, talk to your significant others because it's about to get ugly for them. We got football. We got basketball. It's about to get ugly for them. So talk to your significant other, whoever they may be. And just let them know, baby, we're going to kick it. But when it's game time, it's game time. I got to get up out of here. That's how you got to explain it to them. Let them know. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Bulls Nation, make sure you always see red. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And you already know, I'm going to catch y'all on that next one for sure. Peace out, y'all.
Cognac. Gang.